This is video number 12 in a series of videos where we're making a tank battle game in Unity for Android mobile devices. In this video what we're going to do is get our enemy tank to move around the scene, okay, and making it more difficult for the player to be able to destroy the enemy tank. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to think first about how we want our enemy tank to move around our scene. And then we need to make some code to make it do that. Alright, so ideally what we want is here on this particular example we have a terrain. It's 500 by 500, okay, and we want to concentrate or focus our gameplay kind of in the middle somewhere around these hills. Right, you can set it up however you want, but in this example we've got some hills here, so we kind of want to keep the gameplay in the middle somewhere. In particular, we want to move our enemy tank around kind of randomly, so it might go over here, then over here, and over here, and over here, but never follow a fixed pattern. Okay, we don't want it to do that because we don't want the player to be able to predict where the tank is going to go. We need to make sure that the enemy tank is moving randomly, okay, making it more difficult and more interesting for the player, okay, and more realistic too. Good. So we're going to need a script attached to this enemy tank, okay, that's going to move it around randomly around the scene. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to create a C script, and call it enemy tank move. Okay, open it up, okay, using MonoDevelop here, and you can take a screenshot. Okay, another one there. Okay, and I'm going to go through that with you now. So this script, what it's going to do is move the first of all it's going to make a position for the enemy tank to move towards. Then it's going to move the tank towards that position, and then when it gets close to that position it's going to make another position for it to move to, and it's going to turn, look at that new position, okay, and at the same time it's going to be moving towards that new position. Alright, so it's kind of be moving and flowing nicely around the around the scene, okay, as a tank would. Okay, good. Now let's have a look at this. At the top here what we're going to need is we're going to need to access the rigid body on this enemy tank. Looking at our enemy tank here, if you remember we've got a rigid body attached to it. We're going to be using that, alright, to move our tank. So at the start here we've got rigid body RB enemy tank. Okay, here we've got two floats, POSX, POSZ. We're going to need these because we're going to generate two random positions, alright, two random numbers, okay, that's going to be used to determine the coordinates of where this enemy tank is going to be moving to, okay, on the X and the Z. Next thing we're going to do is here it says size of gameplay area. Okay, we're going to enable our enemy tank to move -50 or +50 on this scene view. Okay, so let's have a quick look at that again. Now we know that this scene is a square, okay, and we know that it's 500 by 500. That means it must, from the center to the edge, must be 250. Okay, in the straight line here, not the diagonal, but in here, right? So we need to do a bit of maths, okay, and say, okay, in this game we want to kind of concentrate the gameplay in the middle. So we'll say, okay, we want maybe +50, -50, +50, -50. That will kind of keep this enemy tank moving around the middle. Okay, so here it said, okay, the enemy tank can't be more than +50 or -50 on either axis. Okay, keeps it in the middle. Next thing we're going to do is, okay, once we've generated this random position which is between these two values, okay, we're going to need to get turn it into a vector 3, okay, which we can use to move towards, okay, called target position. And then we've got two more floats here. They're public, which is the speed that this tank's going to move at and the speed that it'll rotate at. Again, you can set these up in the editor because they're public, okay, here. And also if you've got lots of different tanks, you could set these up differently so they all go at different speeds, etc. Or you could set up a random thing over here. Basically says, okay, give it a random speed. All right, but in this example, we're just going to keep it fixed, keep it easy to understand. Okay, good. So here we go. In Awake, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this rigid body, which is attached to our enemy tank. We're going to get this here, okay, this rigid body. Okay, and then in start, we're going to, first thing we're going to do is we need somewhere for this tank to go. So we're going to get a new position. All right, we're going to use this function, get new position, and this will generate a new position for the enemy tank to move to. Okay, so posx is a random number, random range between posmin and posmax, which is we decided here 50 and 50. Okay, you set it up as you wish. And posz is random between posmin, posmax. Okay, again here 50 minus 50. And then what we're going to do is say, okay, let's make a new position. Right, okay, so we've got vector 3, new position is equal to a new vector 3 which has these values, posx, which will be between minus 50 and 50, transform position y, which is the y position of the tank, what it is now, because we're not moving it randomly up or down, we can just keep the y position, no problem. Okay, and then we're going to move it somewhere on the z, okay, and that we're going to use that value there between minus 50 and plus 50. Now then we're going to say, okay, target position where we want it to go is equal to this new position that we've just generated, okay, that we've just calculated. Okay, so that's all that does. Right, so at start we make a position, this function makes or generates a position, and we set target position, which is this vector 3 up here, equal to this new value here. Okay, so what we do then is, okay, we've got a new position. All right, next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to move. All right, we're going to need to move to this and we're going to need to rotate and look at this new position, otherwise the tank's going to be kind of sliding along sideways. Okay, we need it to be facing the position it wants to go in. Okay, now what I've done here, there are many ways of doing this. All right, okay, many ways of doing this, but I've kind of done it in this way to demonstrate two ways of moving this tank around. Okay, just to get you going on it. So here we have said, okay, right, in update we said, okay, if the distance between where the tank is now and its target position, which is here, okay, yeah, is less than 10, okay, then it must be close to that position, therefore it needs a new position to go to. Right, so get a new position. So this is constantly measuring and looking out to see how far this enemy tank is away from its target position, and you know, when it moves close enough to its target position, it's going to say, okay, I'm nearly there, let's get a new position. All right, so it calls this function here again. All right, get new position. And here I said, okay, in update, just keep rotating, just always keep looking at that target position. I did that because in this particular game here we've got like lots of hills and things, and you know, we are using a rigid body, and if the tank starts sliding a little bit or whatever, and it might end up with a situation where it's kind of sliding down a hill and then, you know, ends up pointing in the wrong direction. So I'm saying, okay, right, let's just be making sure all the time that this is looking in the right direction, all right, to allow for that, okay, possibility. If your ground was completely flat, okay, then you might want to do it another way. All right, but so I'm basically saying here, okay, in update, just keep monitoring the rotation of this tank. Okay, it's one way of doing it, you can do it other ways, but this is just an example. Well, what does rotate do? Well, rotate's quite interesting here, because what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, this direction that this tank needs to go is, this tank direction is equal to the target position, whatever this target position is that we've generated, okay, minus where we are now, the transform position. Okay, and we've got this thing here called a float, which is a step. Okay, which is basically a value which is like a speed rotate times time.delta time. Okay, this is like the steps in which it moves around, or like the speed that it kind of moves around. Okay, and here we've got like vector3 new direction. Okay, is equal to vector3 rotate towards transform forward, wherever move it to where it needs to be pointing at this step, at this rate. Okay, and 0 0. Right, good. And the last thing it says is, okay, the rotation of this tank must be equal to use the look rotation of the new direction. So okay, sounds quite complicated in there, but essentially what this does is it says, okay, we've got a position to look at, let's work out how we're going to get there. Alright, so what it does is, okay, this is where we need to look at, and this is how fast we need to look at it. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to rotate towards that new direction. Okay, good. That's all that does. Now, next thing we need to do is in fixed update. Now, put this in fixed update because whereas this one rotate is moving the transform. Okay, fixed update is for here in the move we're going to be using the rigid body. Okay, we'll actually be moving the rigid body. All right, so ideally as we're using a rigid body, we want to be using the physics. So here we're going to be shoving that into fixed update. Okay, so move is in fixed update. Good. So what does move do? Okay, move basically says, okay, vector3 move forward is equal to transform forward times whatever speed you want it to move. Okay, and then we're going to say RB enemy tank, which is this rigid body, the rigid body of this enemy tank here. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to go dot move position. Okay, which moves the rigid body. Okay, RB enemy tank rigid body dot position plus move forward. Okay, whatever move forward is, and it's this value here, which is transform forward times move speed. Alright, so it's just 2 lines of code there. Okay, and they will move this tank, alright, forwards. But as I said, it's important they'll move it forwards, but we need to make sure that this tank's always looking in the right direction, and that's why I put rotate in update, and that's rotating the transform here. So that kind of ensures that this tank is always moving in the correct combination of these two. Always keeps the tank moving in the right direction. Good. So take a screenshot if you didn't earlier. Okay, good, and let's file save, and let's get this working. So remember, before you as I said, this is for beginners. Before you start doing anything, you need to kind of work out, especially with the code, what exactly is you want this tank to do before you start writing the code. All right, because it can become really confusing in there. So break it down into its steps as we did there. Okay, and look at it logically and realistically, and look out for any problems. And if you can foresee any, then put something in the code or write the code in such a way which will resolve that problem for you. Okay, good. So here is our enemy tank, and we're going to attach enemy tank move script to it, which we just made. Okay, and here you can see here it says speed move 0.05, okay, and speed rotate 0.1. Okay, so all we need to do now is look at our enemy tank. Okay, here's our enemy tank, and we are expecting, before you press play, what you're expecting it to do. Well, you're expecting it to generate a position, to turn, look at it, and start moving towards it. Okay, and when it gets close to it, do the same again. So let's see if it does that. Okay, so the enemy tank is moving, and as it's moving, it's kind of rotating, which is correct. Not too fast. Okay, tanks can't tanks are not cars, they can't rotate that quickly. Alright, so it's going round. Okay. Alright, good. Okay, it's heading straight towards the Chieftain tank here. Okay, here, now it's coming past us on here, it's looking a bit bouncy. Alright, it's because the ground's really bumpy. Alright, don't worry about that for now. But the point is that tank is definitely moving randomly around that scene. Alright, so that's clearly working how it should be. Right, now, that's how to get the tank moving, but I'm going to show you a problem. Because the way we wrote the previous script, okay, let's try and shoot this tank. So first of all, let's find the tank. Commander's a good one. Okay, where is this tank? Okay, let's try and shoot this tank. So let's get the gunner. Okay, let's fire one over there. Okay, let's take a. You can see it's more difficult. Yeah, we can. I've got to destroy this tank. Hold up. Be with you. There you go. Right, so shot this tank, but as you can see, this tank's still driving around. Okay. Well, clearly that's not realistic, because if you've destroyed the tank, yeah, that's not going to be driving anywhere, right? It's just going to stop still. So what we need to do, yeah, is we need to be able to turn this script off, okay, once we've destroyed the tank, okay? Right, so let's think about this. Well, okay, this script here, this enemy tank script, this is what's moving it around. So when this enemy tank is destroyed, we need to turn off this script somehow. Okay, so let's have a look at how we're going to do that. Well, let's have a look at the enemy health script as well. So double click on the enemy health script and let's have a look at what's going on in there. Right, so the enemy tank move is moving it around, okay, and we want to stop it moving around when the enemy health is 0, okay, when it's been destroyed. So this is quite straightforward here. If you go back into the enemy health script that we made in the previous video, okay, here you'll see it says, okay, enemy destroyed. Alright, now at the moment we're saying, okay, when the health of this enemy tank is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to run this function, enemy destroyed. Okay, and what does it do? Well, it says is destroyed is true, it creates some particles, which is what we're seeing, which is correct, and it sets the turret set active false. So you can't see the turret, but you can see the hull. Alright, now that's all good, but we've still got it driving around. Now this enemy health script is attached to the same game object that the enemy tank move script is attached to, and that's kind of handy because it means that we can kind of get that script from that script. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, we're going to add 2 lines of code at the bottom of here when it hits enemy destroyed. Okay, we're going to say, okay, enemy tank move, which is the name of this script, this enemy tank move script that we've just typed up. Okay, enemy tank move, give it a name, and I've called it obviously enemy tank move with a little e on it. Okay, so it's clearly the right thing. Is equal to get component enemy tank move, right? Which means, okay, get this script. Okay, get it. Okay, good. Now once we've got this script, we'll say enemy tank move dot enabled equals false, and that's all you need to do. So basically what it's going to do is when we shot this tank, destroyed the enemy tank, it's going to give us some particles, which is what it did. It's going to turn off the turret so as we can't see it, which is correct, and then it's also going to stop the tank moving. Alright, file, save. Okay, you can take a screenshot of that if you want. Okay, if you don't know how to do this or understand this enemy health script, go back to the previous video. Okay, and that's what we do in that video. Good, so file save, yep, done that, and let's have a look. So just wait here for it to update a little bit, and once it's ready we're going to test this. Okay. Okay, so here, Okay, right, enemy tank. We can apply that because that's a prefab, alright. So that's all in there nicely. Alright, we're going to play this, and I'm going to try and shoot this tank and demonstrate that those two lines of code do in fact actually stop this enemy tank moving around. Okay, so I'm not going to mess about here. Commander. Okay, try and take him out in one shot. Nope. Okay, let's try again. Yes, good. Right, okay. Now, okay, couple of things to notice here. All right, this enemy tank, okay, has definitely stopped moving. Okay, so let's have a look at this script here. It says, yeah, that's right. Okay, enemy tank. It's now turned off this little box here, so that means enemy tank move script is no longer working. Therefore, the tank has stopped. That's correct. Okay. Also, you notice that we had some particles. But also you noticed, yeah, that this tank hull has gone right the way. It's been pushed right the way over there. Now the reason is because when we've got the tank shell, we've got a huge amount of force, yeah, on our tank shell. Okay, we did it for demonstration. You might want to reduce it a little bit, but effectively it's working. All right, so that's the reason why the hull went over there, not because of this script or what we've done today, but because it's the force that's attached to the shell. Okay, and again, that's a previous video, so I'll just demo one more time. Okay, here we go, just a double test. Okay, always test. All right, let's just have a little move about here. Okay. Yeah, okay, that should do it. Right, here we go, Commander. Yep, Gunner. Okay, here we go, straight away. Nope. Okay. And again, this gun's on a timer, which is realistic. There you go. Right, there we go. See, right. So you saw that the enemy tank sort of jumped up in the air. Well, that's the force from the shell. Okay, force from the shell script. Okay. Okay, good. So here, everything's working fine. We've enabled the enemy tank to move around. Okay, we now destroy it. When we destroy it, it stops moving. Great. Okay, I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and give a thumbs up if you like the video. Thank you.